Hello, Oscar. Grandpa here. And hello from Moosey as well. How are you, Moosey? I'm really good. I am good. Yep, I'm doing well. Yeah. So Moosey's doing a head roll, thingy. Say, yep, he's happy. Is that right, Moosey? Yep, I'm happy. So it's hello from Grandpa and Granny to Oscar and to Annabelle and Mummy and Daddy. Hope you're having a fun time. And I'm going to read you the final bit of the Playful Panda, and then we'll go back and read one of the ones we've read before, but I hope you'll like it again. It's always nice to go over things. And if you'll remember, the Chi-Chi and May-May, they found one another, didn't they? Went up a tree, and Chi-Chi found May-May in the tree. And they were playing together, and they scampered out, and the crowds were waiting. They were getting restless because all the visitors wanted to see the two panda cubs. So Chi-Chi and May-May scampered out from behind the bamboo and padded towards the crowd. As they got closer, May-May leapt playfully onto her sister, and they rolled around in a pile of leaves, giggling and squealing. Can you do squealing, Moosey? Yeah, I expect you can. Chi-Chi was proud of her brave sister. Even better, May-May was no longer too timid and frightened to try new things. In fact, May-May seemed just as bold and brave as Chi-Chi, rolling, scampering and having fun in her home more than ever before. I expect you do that, don't you, Oscar? Rolling, scampering and having lots of fun with your little sister. After their big adventure, the cubs have realised how much they love each other. Zoe grinned as she listened to their excited squeals. They've made friends for good this time. Suddenly the reporters spotted them, and there were gasps and laughs from the crowd. "Look, there they are," one cried. "I don't believe it. They're even cuter than I imagined. And look at them playing together." "They're gorgeous," added another, taking a picture. And there's the crowd watching Chi-Chi and May-May playing. Ooh, who's that upside down? I think that's May-May. Mr. Pinch stared at the pandas, completely baffled. "Where on earth were the little fluff balls hiding?" he muttered. "I looked everywhere." While the crowd were busy watching the pandas, Zoe covered up the hole in the fence with an armful of dry sticks and twigs. "We'll make sure Stephanie fixes it properly later," she whispered to Meep. "But something tells me the cubs won't be trying to escape again any time soon." Quietly they slipped back to the gate and out onto the path. Zoe ran up behind Stephanie and Great Uncle Horace and tapped them both on the shoulder. "There you are, sweetheart," Stephanie cried, throwing her arms around Zoe. "I was wondering where you were. Quick, take a look at Chi-Chi and May-May. I don't know what's happened, but suddenly they're getting along so well." "It's extraordinary," added Great Uncle Horace, his brown eyes twinkling at Zoe. "And just in time." The gate opened again, and out came Mr. Pinch. Zoe waited for him to storm and shout about the naughty cubs, but the zoo manager was delighted. "The reporters say they'll tell all their friends to come to the zoo to see the pandas," he announced smugly. "One of them even promised to write a special story about how rare they are. You don't see twin pandas every day, after all. That means extra visitors for the rescue zoo and extra money. It was a brilliant idea of mine, making sure we kept them both." Mr. Pinch strolled. It wasn't his idea at all, was it, Oscar? Mr. Pinch strolled off down the path, whistling a happy tune. "Will the sisters always be together, Mr. Higgins?" called a reporter, holding a microphone out to Great Uncle Horace. "Always," he replied, beaming at Zoe. "The cubs are not just sisters, they're also the very best of friends. We would never dream of separating them." Oh, and there's Zoe and her mum Lucy, I think that is, or maybe Stephanie, and Great Uncle Horace. And Meep as well was in there. Zoe beamed back at Great Uncle Horace and turned to watch the baby pandas rolling around together. She was so relieved and so happy. The twins were both going to stay at the rescue zoo, and enjoy being together. Just then, May leapt into the waterfall, splashing Chi-Chi. The crowd chuckled, and Meep giggled so hard he fell over. Zoe grinned and scooped her little friend into her arms for a hug. "It looks like the rescue zoo doesn't have just one playful panda anymore, Meep," she whispered happily. "Now we have two." And that's the end of this story, Oscar. But to end it, there's a lovely picture of May and Chi-Chi playing around, and there's Zoe and Meep watching, and Zoe and Meep, of course, are so happy that both the pandas can stay in the zoo. So the Playful Panda was a lovely story, wasn't it? So, Oscar, if you're happy, I thought we could go back to reading The Silky Seal Pup. I think you like that, and it'd be perhaps nice to read it again. Hope that's okay with you. So, The Silky Seal Pup. Oh, there's a lovely picture of it. Whoa. Chapter 1. Diving with Dolphins. Where are you going, Lucy? Oh, there we are, that's better. Zoe Parker splashed through the water, giggling as a playful young dolphin swooped along beside her. It was a warm Friday afternoon and at the rescue zoo, and the last of the visitors had gone home, which meant that Zoe could play with all her animal friends. As soon as everyone had left the zoo, Zoe had put on her wetsuit and rushed straight to the lagoon for a swim. There were 5 bottlenose dolphins at the zoo, who lived together in a small group called a pod. They were some of the cleverest creatures Zoe had ever met, and some of the friendliest too. As Zoe swam with the pod, the smallest dolphin popped her head above the surface. She chattered cheerfully, and Zoe grinned. "I love swimming with you too, Coral," she replied. Coral gave a happy squeak. Wriggling excitedly, she leapt out of the water, turned a fast, slippery somersault, then dived back in. I expect you can do somersaults, Oscar, but I wouldn't do it unless Mummy and Daddy approve. Zoe laughed as the young dolphin splashed around proudly. "Hurry up, Zoe, I'm hungry," squeaked a little voice. Zoe turned to smile at her best friend, who was hopping up and down impatiently at the edge of the water. Meep was a tiny grey mouse lemur with huge golden eyes and a long curling tail. He was very cute, but also very mischievous. Just like you, I expect, Oscar. Or is it Annabelle who's mischievous? He went everywhere with Zoe, except when she went swimming, because he hated getting wet. And there, look, it's Zoe swimming with the dolphins. That must be fun. "Coming, Meep," Zoe called to the cheeky lemur. She kicked her way over to the side with the dolphins splashing along behind her. She climbed out and grabbed a fluffy towel that she'd left on a nearby rock. When she was dry, she pulled her jeans and a jumper over her swimming costume and sat down on the rocks next to Meep. We'll get to a snack in just a minute," she promised him, stroking his little head. Meep was always ready to eat. Is that like you, Oscar? You always ready to eat? I think you probably are. Zoe had lived at the rescue zoo ever since she was very small. There is Zoe. Look, Zoe and Meep. Oh, nice sweet. Her great-uncle Horace owned the zoo, was a famous animal expert and explorer. While he was travelling around the world, he'd met lots of injured, lost and frightened animals, so he decided to turn his home and gardens into the rescue zoo, a home for any animal in need. Zoe's mum, Lucy, was the zoo vet, and Zoe, Lucy and Meep lived in a cottage on the edge of the zoo, so that Lucy could help any poorly animal at any time, even in the middle of the night. Zoe thought she was the luckiest girl in the world to live so close to so many amazing animals. And of course, Oscar, you've got the wildlife park, haven't you? And you often go there and see some really great animals, and the train, of course. But there was something even more special about Zoe. She could talk to animals. All animals can secretly understand what humans say, but hardly anyone knows that. Zoe was one of the few people who could understand animals and talk to them. But she had to be very careful to keep their secret and only speak to them when there was no one else around. Coral swam over to the edge of the lagoon and clicked curiously. "I don't know when Great Uncle Horace is coming back next, Coral," Zoe replied sadly. The rescue zoo's owner still travelled around the world looking for animals in danger, and only returned when he found a new creature in need of a safe home. A postcard arrived from Alaska last week. Wow, Alaska, Oscar, that's not far from you actually, just north of you. About probably 1,000 or 2 miles, so 1,500 kilometres. A postcard arrived from Alaska last week. He's been helping a grizzly bear with a sore throat, but it could be weeks until he comes back with the rescue zoo's next animal. Reaching down, she stroked Coral's smooth snout and added, "Luckily for me, the zoo always has hundreds of lovely animal friends." Meat bounced up and down again. "Zoe, I'm still hungry," the little lemur said hopefully. Zoe laughed. "All right, Meat, let's go home. I'll come swimming again soon." Coral, "Bye, everyone." As the dolphins clicked goodbye, Zoe and Meat started wandering back towards the cottage, chatting about all the fun things they could do at the weekend. With all the visitors gone, the zoo was quiet and peaceful. The only sounds Zoe could hear were from the animals around her. The two panda cubs were playing chase in their enclosure. The flamingos squawked and waved their wings, and the enormous white rhino, Mwamba, grunted a friendly greeting as they passed. Suddenly, Meep's ears pricked up. "Listen, Zoe," he chattered. Look, there's Zoe and Meep and the hippo, and they're walking past the pandas, Chi-Chi and Mei-Mei. Oh, that's great." Zoe stopped. Over the snorts, squeaks and whinnies of the animals came a deep growling sound. Zoe had grown up knowing the calls of every single animal at the zoo and recognised it straight away. It was one of the leopards, but the leopard enclosure was at the other side of the zoo, and this rumbling growl was very close by. "Do you think Asher or Kaffee have escaped, Zoe?" Meep asked nervously. "We better find out. Come on." Zoe replied, and they rushed down the path towards the sound. Asher and Kaffee were her friends, and Zoe knew they'd never hurt her or Meep, but it was still dangerous for a big cat to be loose. And if any of the timid gazelles found out, they'd be very frightened. As they reached the parrot enclosure, there was another giant growl. It sounded as if the leopard was right next to them. Zoe looked around anxiously, but there was no sign of Asher or Kaffee's beautiful spotted coats on the pathway or in the bushes around the nearby enclosures. "I don't understand, Meep," said Zoe, frowning. "Where is the noise coming from?" Meep scampered to the top of the fence and peered down into the nearest enclosure. "Maybe the parrots will know," he suggested. Zoe followed Meep up to the enclosure and peered in. It was a large forest enclosure full of trees. She spotted the scarlet macaw, Ruby, straight away because of her glossy rainbow-coloured feathers, but it took her a while to spot Cupid's emerald green body among the leaves. The cheerful lovebird flapped over to Zoe and perched on a branch in front of her, bobbing his pink head up and down in greeting. Rio, a white cockatoo with a bright yellow crest sticking up from his head like a spiky hairstyle, followed behind him. I think that must be Cupid, don't you? Look, what wonderful colours Cupid must have. Anyway, Oscar, that's the start of the new story, and we're running out of time now. So it's lovely to be able to start reading the Silky Seal Pup to you again. Lots of love from Granny, and from me, Grandpa, and from Moosey and Auntie Annie, Anna, and everybody here, and hopefully we'll be looking forward to seeing you soon. So lots of love to you, your little sister Annabelle, and to Mummy and Daddy, of course. So have a fun day. Bye for now. Bye, Oscar.